Would you believe that this Selmer Mark 6 alto was hanging on somebody's wall as an ornament? So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here comes a little story. Once upon a time, there was a guy I know who plays saxophone. And he also plays a Mark 6 alto and a Mark 6 tenor. And I was at his area and we were geeking out, trying mouthpieces, necks and all that sort of fun stuff. And it just came up in casual conversation, I've got another Mark 6. And I says, oh, really? Where is it? And he went, hanging on my wall as an ornament, because it's horrible. So I asked him, how horrible is this little Mark 6 of yours? And he says, well, I've had 2 different repair guys on different occasions looking at the alto and said that they would never touch it because it's not worth doing. And I thought to myself, that's very weird. Well, that sounds like a bit of a challenge. I'm curious to see how horrible this alto is if 2 repair guys have decided to absolutely avoid it. I've got to see this horrible little monster. I'm dying to see how horrible it is. So I had a closer look at the alto, and of course, it was not in the best shape. That's my polite way of saying it was a bit of a train wreck. And it was rattly and clunky, the pads were old and ugly and horrible. It also had quite a funky smell. It was covered in dust and dirt. You know all them fun things that happen to a saxophone when you just neglect it? That's what was happening with this one. But I could see something in it which was called potential. I don't know why the other 2 saxophone technicians could not see the same as me. It's a Mark 6, and with a bit of work, it can be quite nice. And maybe they were just busy or being lazy or just didn't see the potential. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. I'm just throwing some random words out there. But I seen something in this alto which made me think, this is a challenge I want to take on. And here we are today. And for my friend who owns the saxophone, if I took it and couldn't do anything with it, it's still going to be a wall hanger. But if I took it and totally blitzed it and made it come alive again, well, that's a win-win situation. Now, I'm going to show you around the saxophone what it looked like just about a week or so ago. I did make some videos of the actual condition of the instrument with all the dirt and the dust. But then, because I'm a stupid head, I deleted the videos by mistake. I deleted them off my camera, thinking that they were different videos. I told you I'm an idiot, but I did manage to salvage some other footage, and here it is. So I stripped the saxophone down to a body tube, as you would, and it looks like that. And then, after I stripped it down, I took that body tube and I decided, you little smelly rat, you're going in the bath. You're going to get cleaned up. You're going to scrub up. Come on, it's bath time, mister. So that's exactly what I did. I took the keys, I took the body, I took the neck, I took everything on the saxophone and I scrubbed them up because it was, like I say, smelling a little bit funky. And then after this little bath, it was a lot better. Now there were a lot of little knocks and bumps and bruises and scrapes, and of course the lacquer has worn off in many places. Now the worn lacquer and all that sort of stuff does not faze me in any way because I actually like the signs and the look of a used saxophone. So after the cleanup process, I had to take the key work and straighten it out because there was so many issues with the keys. For example, most of the key cups were not even straight. I have no idea who or what had been messing around with this alto, but a lot of the key work was just bent out of shape and it was not the best. Each individual key had to be really readjusted. Some of the rods were sticking in the key work, so that had to be leveled out and straightened out. You know, all these juicy things that saxophone technicians have to go through, but I took the challenge on and that's why I'm not going to complain about it. So after the key work was sorted out, then it came time to sort out the neck and the body, and I did exactly the same process there. Tightened up some of the mechanic that needed to be done. Some of the posts were quite sloppy, as in the keys were loose fitting because the posts were bent out of shape. So once I went round the whole saxophone, that's when I decided, let's get some new pads stuck in this little fella. So that's exactly what I did. I stuck a whole new bunch of pads in the saxophone, and then here comes the fun part, having to rebuild it. I always start with the G sharp key because that little thing can be a pain in the butt. I got to get that one right, spend a bit of time on that. Once it's done, then I start again with the right hand keys. So then I take this nice fun looking Bernie thing and then I stick that on top of the key cup itself so it loosens up the glue in there and I'm able to put a tool underneath the pad. But don't worry, the Bernie thing's not going to take out them little pearl keys. I've got this nice little pearl key protector which I use so I don't burn them sort of things. So once the pads are all fitted on the right hand and the G sharp, I tend to clamp them down overnight. I leave it for a day so it gets that ring nicely cut into the pad, so then it's much easier to do the rest of the adjustments and the rest of the setup on the saxophone. So fast forward time, I'm not going to go into the rest of the process of the rebuilding because this video would last all day, but you can tell that there's a lot of work needed to put this back together to make it into a playable saxophone. But check out this little fella here. Do you see this fella? You know who it is. It does not matter if this fella is on the saxophone or just lying there chilling out. It still has to do its wiggling thing. Here it goes. Go on, son. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Go on. It just can't help itself. Even without the rest of the keys there. Fast forward even more now. So the saxophone is now fully assembled and looks like this. One thing to note that it does not have a high F sharp key, and that's actually suiting my preference as a player. I prefer saxophones without the high F sharp, but of course a lot of people do like that key, but we're all different. Not bad for a little train wreck that was hanging on a wall, is it? All the corks and stuff like that was replaced as well. The neck cork is brand new. I've only had about 5 minutes to test this alto, so that means my actual testing process of this alto is this video. Anyway, let's have a listen to what this alto sounds like now that it's not hanging on a wall. So it's final thoughts time, but before I get to my thoughts on this alto, I'd like to hear yours. So you, yes, you out there, stick some comments in that section below. Let's interact, let's have a nice little chat about this alto or anything else to do with saxophone or anything else you want to chat about. Yeah, let's do that as well. I've got to do my guilty pleasure thing with the fingers, although that sounds very wrong, but this is what I mean. That sounds so good, doesn't it? Well, let's just say from an object which was stuck on a wall and a couple of repair techs didn't want to look at. Why the hell not? This is a great little alto. It plays absolutely fine. It's got its typical Selmer things, you know, like you got to watch the tuning in the top and on the bottom, but that's typical of every Selmer I've played, and the tone is so nice. And the mouthpiece that I'm using is an older Jody Jazz, size 8. And I actually got this mouthpiece from the guy who owns this saxophone. So this should not be on a wall. It should be getting played. It should be getting gigged. You could even switch out the neck on it. Try different neck for different tone qualities, of course. Different mouthpieces for your different sounds. But in general, this alto is way too good to be stuck on a wall. So don't do it again. You don't hang this on a wall. You get this set up by somebody like myself and get it played. That's the best course of action for something like this. This poor little fella had no home. It's got a home. My friend owns it, but it had no case. So I decided, let's put it in something which is a little bit more classy and looks great with the alto. So that's why this Kyleworth case is going to be used for the alto. It's a very substantial case, but it's solid and it looks great. Let's have a look inside. Ow. Doesn't that look really nice? You've got to admit, that looks very classy. So this was absolutely worth bringing back to life. And just to know that this will be gigged again, it'll have a life, it'll make sound for an audience to enjoy. It's much better than the alternative, which is to be stuck on a wall, gathering dust. This needs to be played, and I'm glad it's going to get a new life. That was my mini vlog about this alto, bringing it back to life. Or was it just an excuse for me to have a mini rant about people abusing and mistreating their instruments? It's probably a bit of both, really. So if you're new to this channel, it's now your turn. Can you do me a huge favour? This costs you absolutely nothing. Click on subscribe, click on like, all that juicy YouTubey stuff. That makes my stupid head very happy. And you'll get to see more videos, maybe something like this again, or whatever, something which is saxophone stuff. Now it's time for me to go and enjoy something else that I like, and that's my cup of tea. Dun 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 dun.